for this. Who's on shit on Lilly? Who bring nothing left to the P.O. Lilly. Lily's the, she's the prize, she's the pearl. Lily's the question mark. Bring tons of world. Lily's world, Lily's world. She's the prize, she's the pearl. Get ready for Lily's world. She's the star, the question mark.
My name is Lillian E. Mitchum, and welcome to Lily's World Comedy Podcast. Sit back, relax, and take your shoes off, and let's get this thing cracking. The title of this podcast is called The Triple D's. And what I want to deal with is here, I have on a white shirt. I want to deal with rage, which is the red dress. And I also want to deal with calm, which is that aqua blue dress. Now, we all know that when you're getting married, it's such a happy occasion. You see stars and lights and glamour, and you in love and he's in love, and the world's just open up, and you're just thrilled to death because he's yours and you are his. And it goes on for a while. As time goes on, you reflect back, and they said, until death do us part. And you live on that because you was brought up on that, because your mother, your aunties, and everything, they stayed married for so long, and you never thought that you would be the one to get a divorce. So when they said till death do us part, they also mean till divorce do us part. Now, I'm not here to share blames or talk about he did it or I did it. That is not the point. My point is, I was married to one man and had to divorce him 3 times. I want you to chew on that for me. I want you to stop and think about it. How can you be married to one man and divorce him 3 times? I'm going to tell you how. He and I got together and we decided, okay, this just isn't going to work. So what we did, we lawyered it up. He got his lawyer and I got mine. My cousin was a lawyer. So what she did, she asked her friend to represent me. And she did. And when she represented me, we, just take us back, we was in court, City Hall. We was getting ready to get our divorce. So me, my cousin, and her friend, that's a lawyer, and he was at one end talking to his lawyer. I was at the other end talking to my cousin and my lawyer. And her name was Jackie. Think about it. And so he asked me, and he used to call me Red. And he said, and while I was talking to them, he said, can you come here for a moment? So me, as you can see in this pure white, I went over and I talked to him. And he and I talked, and what we decided to do was not to get a divorce, but to get a legal separation. So what I did, I went back over and I talked to my cousin and her friend. And they looked at me like I was cray-cray. And she said, and she turned and she looked at my cousin. And she told my cousin, she said, you know what? Your cousin is very nice, but she's crazy as hell. But you know, I didn't care because I still love that man. And what I did, we stayed for a few more years that he and I stayed together. Now, I remember what my sister told me. And she said, sis, it's going to come a time that you're going to sit back and you're going to divorce him. And No, my thoughts were, no, I still love that man. I said, these people don't know what they're talking about. This is my husband. She has her husband. Why is everybody trying to tell me to divorce this man that I love? But you know what? She was right. So one day everything was going good. By then we had two sons. One was 7, I think the other was 10. And I remember this day as clear as I am talking to you right now. I looked up this lawyer. I turned around. I left in the house with the kids. I went to this lawyer's office. I talked to him, and he agreed to take my case. And from that point on, I was ready. I was ready. So moving forward, when we went to court, my mother, as you can see this picture, there's my mother, there's me, there's him, and that's his mother. Now, I want you to hold on to that thought. Hold on to that thought now. When we went to court, his mother started going to court with him. When she went to court with him, they got continuance. Now, this is all from my mind. They got continuance. Then my mother said, well, Lillian, if she's going to court, then I'm going to court with you. Now, just think about it. We already had kids. We sitting in front of a judge, and there's my mother, there's me in the middle, there's him, and there's his mother in the middle. The judge, on the side of him. The judge looked at us, bowed his head, and I think he wanted to laugh, but it was just so odd that he turned around and he just asked questions, and then his mother again turned around and said, Judge, we need another continuance. So the judge granted a continuance. So then after that, a few months later, I was laying in bed one night. And keep in mind, I got on this white now. Still in the dark. I had on this white. Now remember, he didn't have a lawyer. This was my lawyer that I got. He turned around and said, Red, I need to ask your lawyer a question. Now you know that was a red flag. But me loving this man and thinking, no, we gonna get a divorce. So, I never thought or anticipated that what kind of question would this man have to ask my lawyer. But me, real white, turned around and gave him the number to my lawyer. Yes, I did. He turned around, and I don't know what he asked my lawyer or whatever, but he got the number, and I know he talked to my lawyer. So then after that, a few months later, I went back to court. When I went back to court, the person that was there at that time was me, my mother, and that lawyer. When we went to court, stood in front of the judge, and then there was no contestants then, I got my divorce. So as we walked out of City Hall, we went downstairs. I hugged the lawyer. My mother hugged the lawyer, and I asked, "Am I really divorced?" He said, "Yes." Now, think about it. A whole year passed by. A whole year passed by. I thinking I'm divorced. At this time, I'm dating, thinking I'm divorced. And somebody told me, said, and I never, ever, 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 ever got my divorce papers. But in my mind, I'm divorced. So at that time, me and my brother, and he was another one that always had my back. And he and I went down to City Hall. When we went down to City Hall, I checked and I said, I want to see my divorce papers or my jacket. They, City Hall, turned around and checked the jacket. In the jacket, they saw in the files where I was getting my first divorce. Um, so that was in the file. Then they turned around and they said, okay, we see this, but when you was going for the other divorce, there was nothing in the file in City Hall. I trust you not. So they proceeded by going over to their computer and they looked up the computer. And when they looked up the computer, they was like shocked. It was a little quiet and they said, technically, you're still married. I was still married for a whole year and didn't know it. So they told me, what you can do is go down to DePaul Legal Center and they might have somebody that can help you. Now remember, for the first divorce, I paid money. Second divorce, I paid money. He only paid money for the first divorce. So me and my brother proceeded by going down. It was a cold winter day, I think like October, and we proceeded by going to DePaul Legal Center. When I went there, I think it was lawyers that was practicing law or finished their law degree. So this young guy came to me and I told him what happened. So what he did, he went and I guess he told his advisor in the back. When he told his advisor in the back, they was laughing. Trust me, they was laughing. And he came out with a smile on his face. And he said, we going to take your case. I said, that's good. And so I said, do I have to go back to court? He said, unfortunately, yes. Now, come on now. I had to go right back to court. Now, let me tell you what happened. What happened is, you're not going to believe this. The judge died, and my lawyer got disbarred. I shall repeat. The judge died. My lawyer got disbarred. I was still married. And so when we went to court, me and my mother at that time, then me and my mother went back to court. We sat outside the courtroom. I turned around and asked this young lawyer, or practicing to be a lawyer. I turned around and asked him before he went into the courtroom. I said, look, let me ask you this question. How is your heart? How is the judge's heart? Because I don't think I can go through this a fourth time. And so he laughed and he went inside. He said, you and your mom don't have to go in. Only thing we need is this a signature signed off by this judge, this new judge. I said, okay. So he went in, me and my mama sitting outside waiting. He came back and he said, okay, the judge signed off on. You will get a copy of your divorce paper in the mail in a month. I said, good. Again, me and my mama, we turned around and we hugged him. A month later, I got my divorce papers. So that was good. The moral of the story is, don't mess around with those papers. It's easy to get married, hard as hell to get a divorce. Make sure it will be until death do you part. Make sure that this is really, really the right person. Now, I'll be honest with you. There's no guarantee on I haven't done it yet. One time. But for anybody else out there, that's my story. Your story may be different. Until then, have a nice day. Please share, subscribe, and comment. God bless.
Say how ain't ready for this. Who's on shit?